All right, y'all, welcome back to Declare Independence. We are talking about RFK again today. Sorry, I don't really have a lot of notes, just kind of going to be rambling a little bit. I hope for those that have been following RFK and his campaign, I hope you saw his appearance on Kill Tony the other day. If you're not familiar, Kill Tony is kind of a comedy show for up-and-coming comedians to come in and pump out a minute of their best content and get a reaction from a panel of seasoned comedians. And I think it's awesome that he showed his face. He and his wife showed their face. And as I was watching it, I really thought about the way that he's going about campaigning, right? That he is not, if you're familiar, you've been watching RFK, he is not as seasoned and as polished of a politician, as he hasn't been a politician in his life, as Bill Clinton was, as Barack Obama was. That in a year or so leading up to the election made virtually no mistakes. There were no gaffes, no errors in the way that they were messaging a particular point or idea. And a lot of that has to do with being coached and being prepared. And a lot of what RFK is doing is kind of on the fly. That said, if you pay attention to all of the most successful politicians of the last 20 years, they recognize there is something they're involved in, which is kind of like show business, right? Like, and I'm not just talking about Trump, Barack Obama, he had that it factor of being a bit of a showman, right? He just always said the right thing, disagree with his politics, made a lot of very poor decisions, in my opinion, that we won't really need to cover here. But he didn't embarrass the country because he was sharp and he always said the right thing on TV. Clinton was the same way. Ronald Reagan, an actor, right, understood show business. And I think RFK, having Cheryl on his side, really understands, at least she does, right, understands showmanship and how show business works. And I thought it was so awesome, if you see that Kill Tony segment, that he was just on the precipice of telling a joke that maybe he made up, maybe he didn't, after he made fun of his own brainworms, which I thought was awesome. That she came out and she pulled the mic from him and didn't let him finish the joke. And the crowd booed, and I thought it was just fascinating that it was almost, to me, it almost felt like a bit of showmanship. Like it wasn't some, unplanned thing. It was almost like planned, like to leave the audience hanging, like, oh, I wanted to finish that Irish joke. And if you look at the comments, it's kind of all in that way. So I thought it was awesome. I don't think Biden could possibly stand up in front of a crowd ready to hear jokes and impress people. Trump probably would do okay. I've definitely found myself chuckling at some of his rallies in, clips I've seen in the past. He has not made me, I really don't enjoy hearing his voice anymore. Like, at least he was kind of fun to listen to before. And he is just annoying with just drivel out of his mouth at this point, listening to Trump, which I think just makes RFK look like that much more of a light in a dark place. I love RFK leaning into the brainworms report. It's amazing how much the media has really taken this fuel and just run with it. I don't know what the New York Times, where they were finding sources. Obviously, they're digging and turning over every rock they can to find dirt on this guy, and they don't have much. They want him to fail so much that a medical report from 2010 that was used in deposition in his divorce proceedings in 2012 is basically the biggest story they have on him thus far in the campaign. And it's kind of crazy that that's like the groundbreaking news that they have on it, that he made it onto, he's on the Colbert Report. There's like a 9-minute segment just lambasting him as a candidate and how dumb he is, when anyone with a brain who actually is open-minded to listen to all three candidates knows that he is, whether you agree with his policies or not, that's really irrelevant. Like, whether you agree with him or not is why you might vote for him. But to claim that he is in the same level of cognitive decline that Joe Biden and Donald Trump are in is like, it's laughable at best and asinine at worst. Like, that's just not it's an egregious claim that does not hold up to examination. RFK is by far the sharpest of the three candidates. Again, you do not have to agree with his policies. There are some things that I hear and I'm like, well, I don't really like that. I actually like this particular thing, and not quite the way that he views it. And I do find myself to be more of a capitalist and less of a socialist. And there are certain things that, while for the greater good, probably I don't like the messaging of some of those things. That said, like I'm just all in on RFK. Like I think that he's the only person that will make me more proud to be an American than I am right now. Yeah, it's going to be interesting as the few weeks that lead up to the Libertarian Convention in DC on May 24th to 26th, as RFK and Donald Trump and Vivek Ramaswamy are all going to be there. It's pretty wild. For I want to say the Libertarians got fewer than 2% of the vote in the last election. I think at their height in 2016 got around 4%, and to be getting big names to show up just shows how important their voter base is, but how much of a threat Trump feels that RFK is to his ability to get reelected. And that is really promising that, it's not about the 1 or 2% of these voters that may choose to vote for Trump over voting for the Libertarian candidate who hasn't been named yet. At least to the best of my knowledge. I think on the Libertarian website, there's you could donate to the candidates, and the top 5 candidates will get on the debate stage on the 26th. And the highest dollar amount that any of the 9 candidates had was $3,000. So none of these people matter. Whoever the Libertarians choose as their candidate, literally has no bearing on whether they'll be a threat of their own. I just think it's awesome how different it's going to be than 2016 was, Gary Johnson and John McAfee. I actually watched those debates. I really was compelled to seek out other options starting as early as 2016. I did not vote for Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton in 2016. I voted for Evan McMullin. I was a voter in California. My vote didn't matter anyways, but as it is just a deeply blue state. But I wanted to make sure that my values were in line with the person that I chose. So really what you're here for is to kind of see where's RFK in terms of being able to qualify for an actual debate, right? I doubt that Trump ends up debating. What's more likely to happen is Trump won't show, and he'll have some good reason and why he couldn't make it, and then he'll come out and speak to them a different time. Trump is a showman. He's not going to do anything to damage his chance of getting reelected, which is why he didn't debate at all. He knows that it could only hurt him. Debating someone who is 30 points down in the polls from you is not a good idea, right? You want to keep where you're at unless there's a good reason, unless you see them eating into your numbers enough, which is why he's willing to debate Biden, but claims that RFK is not a real threat, trying to downplay the support that he has. As we all know, there is no swing RFK voter. If you're in on RFK, you're in already. But RFK needs to reach 270 potential electoral votes to even qualify for a debate, meaning that he has to be officially on enough ballots that if he were to win every single ballot that he was on, that he could reach 270 electoral votes and thus technically win the election, which, even though you don't need 270 electoral votes to win the election, you do if there's only 2 candidates. That said, where does he stand right now, right? So he, according to his campaign's website, if you go to kennedy24.com/ballot-access, he believes that he is qualified for 13 states, which compiles 147 potential electoral votes, right? It means that, the number of votes in California and Michigan and Nebraska and Utah, all the ones that he says that he is qualified for, is 147 potential electoral votes. He needs to add another 130 nearly to reach that 270. Officially, the median number per The Hill is 28 electoral votes. So officially, He is only on Utah, Oklahoma, and Michigan. Those official numbers are likely to dramatically shift as he's using a similar method to what he did in Michigan, where he basically found one random person who has a technically official party on the ballot or has been on the ballot previously and requests to use their party's nomination to gain immediate ballot access. And that's how he officially got onto the Michigan ballot, as well as how he's claiming Delaware and California, which is just awesome. Not only does it save a ton of money, but it's just like such a slap in the face to the people that are trying so desperately hard to write the rules to make it difficult for a third-party candidate to get on the ballot. I really appreciate that. But along with that, he needs to be polling at least 15% on recent polls. I don't know what recent means. As the months before the first official debate in September, there's a lot that can go on. We're still 4 months out from those first debates. I'm not sure what recent will mean. But, I mean, if it comes August and you're not polling 15% at least, I think at that point you really have to evaluate like how viable it is that you are going to win anything. Like just simply protesting, voting as a protest, like doesn't make a lot of sense. But if it is viable that he could win even one state, even one electoral vote, like he will have my vote. He will have my vote. There's nothing that can change my mind. If he doesn't, I don't know if I would fill in the blank. I am going to be a voter in Michigan, so I am in probably one of the most pivotal swing states, and I really hope that he is able to make some inroads in my state and change the hearts and minds of the people here and get through all of the slander and the libel that is trying to tarnish him, not on facts, but just on conjecture, really. And what I think is really fascinating and what we should all pause and reflect on is if you're as affected, you have these negative feelings about what the media is doing to him regarding this brainworm thing. And it was so sad. If you typed in RFK Jr. in the last day or two and just scrolled, like the first 20 videos that were in my feed were all about RFK has brainworms. Study shows RFK had brainworms. And not only is that just like such a ridiculous thing that like, obviously it's not, it's not private information because it was used in a divorce proceeding, right? He openly declared this, so it wasn't like, it was like a sealed confidential record that there was like some breach of privacy. Obviously not, but just imagine if the shoe were on the other foot and they were doing, if something came out about Joe Biden, a very similar type of medical history story, like I promise you it would not be covered. I just promise you it wouldn't be covered. If it were Trump, it would be covered. Fox News wouldn't cover it. All the other major networks would cover it. But it's just like really ridiculous to see like the double, triple, quadruple standard. It's not real, but they have for people that they don't like, especially the New York Times, who very clearly is not just a liberal ideology, but has an agenda, right? An agenda that they're promoting, a Marxist agenda, in my opinion. Though there have been New York Times articles in the past year that I've read and very much enjoyed. But when it comes to politics, it's very black and white where they stand. But what we should take pause and really appreciate is that they're kind of using all their bullets up right now. Right? There's not a lot that they have on RFK at all, and they're using all of it up right now. 3 months from now, the brainworms thing is going to be kind of old hat, and they don't have anything else on him other than the fact that he's been married a few times. His wife committed suicide, his first wife. They've already burned the candle down on that his family is not supporting him because 5 of his family members work for the Biden campaign. Like, there's not much more that they're going to have on him if his support continues to rise 3 months from now. You can only say anti-vax enough so many times before people go and hear for themselves what his actual stance on vaccines are, and just that he thinks that they should all be held to the same rigorous testing, new ones, as old ones did, and keep mercury and other really harmful chemicals and elements out of vaccines. That doesn't make somebody anti-vaccine. That's just anti-poison, really, and I think that's fair. I didn't love his. If you're, taking all of RFK's interviews in from a fire hose, you probably saw his interview on the Sage Steele podcast. For those of you who don't know who Sage Steele is, she used to be an ESPN reporter covering the NBA. She's do post game interviews and stuff. Awesome interviewer. It's interesting to see the turn that she's taken in her career. But out of the countless podcasts that I've seen him on, even longer ones that kind of promoted him even more favorably, I think this particular podcast was the very best one, because it's very clear that she's a supporter / voter, but she pressed him for specific answers on things, and I didn't love his answer on abortion. I think he not only was very unpolished, which, like we said earlier, is something that Barack Obama or Bill Clinton, or even if you watched Vivek Ramaswamy during his primary campaign run, every answer was polished. Videos I watched, he would be asked the same question. He was reciting things verbatim that he had said before. It's very clear that RFK really hasn't prepared. Doesn't have flashcards that he's studying. All right, if I get asked this question, this is how I answer it. And his answer was not only really startling, but something I just vehemently don't agree with. But his clarification on X really showed that he's just a human like you and I, that is willing to change his mind when facts are presented. And so I'm not going to belabor what he said, but you can go watch the Sage Steele interview, and then in its entirety, it is a very, very, very good interview. And then just kind of read some of his comments post-interview on X regarding what he said. And I think we should just be okay with that. Like, I think people that, and this is also the problem with people in Washington, is like, they will stick, rather than what they think is embarrassing themselves and changing their mind and being called a flip-flopper, they'll hold on to ridiculously stupid positions the entirety of their career, just for the sake of, I've always had this position, I've always voted this way, even if it's not what they believe anymore. John Maynard Keynes, the father of Keynesian economics, said, "When the facts change, I change my mind. What do you do, sir?" And I just think that's like a really good position to take on basically anything. As more data becomes available, you should be willing to change your mind. I wonder if he were alive right now, I wonder how he would feel about his idea of money printing and MMT. But anyways, that's for another day. But yeah, that's pretty much all I really had to talk about. Let me know what your thoughts are on the recent RFK news. If you're a news supporter, let me know which side you're coming from, if you tend to lean left or lean right. And if you're wavering on supporting him, let me know what are the things that kind of caused you to get into the RFK camp in the first place, and what's kind of driven you away. And if you feel comfortable, like who you voted for in 2016 and 2020, I'll be very clear. I voted for Evan McMullen in 2016. I left it blank in 2020 because I didn't support either of the candidates. And I feel I finally have someone that I actually am excited to support, not just someone that like feels like could potentially have a chance, but someone I can honestly say in the last, at least in my voting lifetime, my very first vote was for Arnold Schwarzenegger for during the not Republican, but the recall of Governor Brown in California. There was a special election held, and I voted for Arnold Schwarzenegger as an 18-year-old, and I probably would vote the same way today. I think, it just kind of reflects like my naivety, but also, or at least as in terms of voter education, but also that I've always been a moderate since I was 18. I've kind of always held middle of the road stances, and I think that it's vital that you listen to both sides and not just get your news from one source, and not be offended because you hear something that doesn't currently line up with the way you feel or the way you've been indoctrinated to feel about a certain thing. And I think that the willingness that you have to hear things out and say, well, this is what is alleged to have been said by someone, then hear it for yourself. Hear it in the context, hear it in the connotation and the tone that they use, and then decide for yourself. I think it's much more valuable to keep an open mind about things like that than it is to just take a hardline stance because your parents believed a certain ideology and they told you this was right, or because in the past you felt a certain way and you feel that you're not allowed to change your mind. So anyways, if you like this, give it a thumbs up. Again, thanks for jumping up my subs from like 50 to 75. I know you're not subscribed. If you like what's going on in the country with this open discourse and potential for additional ideas and debates, then give this channel a subscribe, because I'm probably going to be covering primarily RFK Jr. and just kind of the events that are leading up to the election. Whether he wins or loses really doesn't matter. We have a country that really matters, and it's important that we are in tune with the current events that are going on and preparing ourselves for the things to come. And I hope you appreciate this, and signing off. I'll see you.